I was scrolling through my Twitter account today and I just happened to come across this article that was posted up that Professor Black Truth had on his page. And what do you know? It was talking about Cynthia Erivo, the person that a lot of American-born black people tend not to, I guess you can say, gravitate towards because of some comments she made. And it was talking about this awards ceremony or awards nominations called BAFTA, which is basically, I guess you can say, the British actors' versions of the Oscars. So they have the opportunity to win that, and they can also win an Oscar as well. And that's like a big thing for British-born actors. No matter where in the world they happen to be portraying their roles. And Cynthia Erivo came out and said something that had her a little bit pissed. But to be honest, it made me smile. And I'm sure that Harriet Tubman is somewhere out in the universe smiling as well. And I'm sure you'll be smiling by the time I get to the end of this commentary. So Cynthia Erivo is upset that BAFTA has snubbed her performance, and those were her words, snubbed her performance. In my opinion, they overlooked a mediocre performance, which they should. And at best, well, shoot, at worst, because to be honest, it wasn't even mediocre. It was a dumpster fire. They overlooked her performance and snubbed her for a chance to even be nominated for that award. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read this article, and I want you to just hear the tears that she just throws all over this article. Cynthia Erivo has responded to the recent BAFTA nominations, which yielded entirely white nominees in all major acting categories. At the red carpet premiere for her new HBO show, The Outsider, Erivo started by saying how disappointed she was by the lack of diversity in the BAFTA noms, which snubbed her for her performance in the critically acclaimed feature Harriet. Now, let me tell you right there why this chick is also selfish. Now, they said the nominees were entirely white, which means white women, white men, pretty much in every acting category. I'm almost certain there were probably some other black British-born actors that probably got snubbed as well, but all she could think about was herself. She wasn't thinking about anybody else except herself in that moment. She had a Freudian slip and she probably didn't catch it, but I caught it. It's disappointing to see that we've got to this point in time and we've had such wonderful advancement in inclusion and diversity, and the films this year were beautiful, such wonderful stories told, and to not have that represented in an award show like the BAFTAs is just disappointing, really. Well, it's not disappointing to us, and nor is it surprising. Why? Because we know how a lot of these institutions are. You just are upset because they overlooked your bland ass performance. See, we are upset at people like Cynthia Erivo, who opened up her mouth and had all this shit to say about American-born black people, then turn her ass right around and take on the role of an American icon, someone we hold up in very high regard. Like, how disrespectful can you get? And that's one of the major reasons why many people didn't go out and support that movie. And then when we found out, if y'all remember, I did a live stream, but when we found out all like the stuff that came out of that movie, no one was wanting to see that. Creating fictional characters to make black men look bad and all types of stuff. Have you considered, Cynthia Erivo, that maybe they took all of that into consideration as to why you weren't nominated, or maybe why the film itself wasn't nominated? She probably didn't, knowing her. It says, after the noms were released, Variety reported exclusively that Erivo had been asked to perform at the show by the British Academy even after she didn't receive a nomination, to which Erivo turned down the offer. Aww. They thought she was only good enough to be up there and perform and entertain like the little court gesture that she is. And little sidebar, have y'all noticed that Cynthia Erivo always is constantly changing her hair color? Now, this is her natural hair that you see in this picture. She tends to change her hair color to whatever color dress she has on at the time. I swear, the only time I've ever seen this chick wear black hair in any movie role that she's been in, it was always a wig. Now that tells you something, that she will only wear her natural hair color if it's in the form of hair that's not her hair texture and is not growing out of her head. What does that tell you about her as a person? but she says she turned down the offer. The reason I didn't perform is because I don't think it's proper representation as a woman of color. Now y'all know why I stopped, right? Look at what she just referred to herself as. A woman of color. You know how much that shit grinds my gears. That's one reason why I have an issue with Gabrielle Union. She says as a woman of color, that lets you know she doesn't even see herself as a black woman. But then again, she's a British born woman, and a lot of them tend to think on that same wavelength. As a woman of color, and she would be considered the bottom of the barrel if she was to stick to that label, of people of color in this industry. Earlier today, BAFTA announced they were launching a careful, very and detailed review of the voting process, but Arrivo isn't certain as to what positive results that may yield. Let's see how the review does, whether it affects next year or the year after, who knows. But I definitely think it's time for change. We can't overlook it anymore. Well, listen, Cynthia, there have been some British-born actors or foreign actors who are black. Notice I said who are black or melanated, who have won BAFTAs before, such as John Boyega, even though that is a trash character he's played in the Star Wars dumpster fire films. You've had Lupita Nyong'o, who has won, I believe. You've had, of course, Idris Elba, who has won. Maybe it's because even though, well, with John Boyega and his character, maybe it's because maybe they liked his performance, even though it is very questionable from my point of view. But maybe they liked their performances. Maybe they didn't like the lies that they put into a film that was supposed to be a biopic. I mean, the filth that came out of that film. And you thought you was going to be acknowledged for that? Now notice, this woman was also nominated for a Golden Globe. And I'ma just be completely and utterly and rawfully honest. Cynthia, the only reason the Hollywood Foreign Press Association gave your ass a nomination for a Golden Globe for that dumpster fire film known as Harriet is because they needed a quota. They needed to put a black face in there to have quote unquote diversity, and it was a pity nomination. They knew your ass wasn't going to win. They just threw you in there. I'm amazed they even overlooked maybe some other nominee performances that were way better that year and gave it to you. They probably was like, okay, it's going to be between her or that chick from Queen and Slim. That's probably what they narrowed it down to, and they gave it to you. After all, both films came out in the same month, and I have a feeling that all of them had to have seen it, especially since Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith are both foreign-born themselves. Just like you, Cynthia. Just like you. Now, all we have to do is hope that she gets snubbed for an Oscar, because that's the big one right there. If she gets snubbed for an Oscar, she's really going to feel it. She's really going to feel it then. So keep your fingers and your toes crossed to the point where you damn near crack them motherfuckers. And let's all hope for the best. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and have your notifications turned on. And I will talk to you in the next one.